Hi, I'm Dr. Chuck Diviney here today with Eric Johnson and Brian Godfrey to discuss whether it is wise to be friends or not after a divorce, and also part of the healing process with divorce. What is available to you? And you guys had some questions that were pretty cool, or some thoughts.
Yeah, let me start with that then. So first of all, in my experience, I am surprised. In my experience as a divorce lawyer, I am surprised at the number of people who don't get along. And by that, what I mean is they don't have to just have nothing but fond memories of each other, but I'm surprised at the amount of animosity, because most divorces are not knock down, drag them out. I just discovered you were having a torrid affair, and you were looking at pornography, and you were doing drugs, and all these, and you were molesting our. I mean, those do occasionally happen, and I can see how there could be lingering bitterness.
Sure.
But a lot of times it's just, we don't get along. We just fought all the time. There was a lot of tension, and then it's almost as if, even though the divorce occurs, things get worse.
Right.
Okay, so I was a little surprised about that in the course of I've been practicing for 20 years, and I was kind of surprised over time to see that. Brian, what were some of the things that, and lean in too so we make sure we can hear you, but what are some of the things that you've noticed in the course of your experiences?
When I had my divorce, obviously during the divorce it was really hard to get along, because you're divorcing and you've got all these things going on and you're mad, and maybe there's resentment, but there's also some grief and loss because you're losing someone. Your family's kind of getting torn apart, and you have to juggle two different schedules, and it's a lot's going on, and so you're trying to deal with it is hard. But after the divorce, as the topic is, when you're trying to stay friends, I found it was a lot easier after I could actually communicate. I think that's one of the biggest things. We talked about protective orders in the last video that we did. That kind of just shuts down all communication.
Right.
And so that makes things extremely difficult. Like you were saying, sometimes it's almost worse to have a protective order, because it puts people that are super controlling in a position where they're, they've really been offended, or they've been kind of singled out as the wrong person in this whole situation. So that just makes things worse. I think when people are trying to stay friends after the divorce, it's a lot easier because you're kind of settled. You've got your time with your child, hopefully at this point, whether custodial interference has been enforced or not. I mean, you've finally figured out a schedule, hopefully, and you're getting your kid, and there's been a chance for you to kind of give a little when they need a little bit of extra, or kind of to stray from the guideline. And so hopefully they'll they'll reciprocate on the other end. Like, well, you did let me have him, a half hour early, the time that I was already right there, and stuff like that. I think getting along after the divorce is easier, and I think whether you call yourself friends or not, you made a life together. You need to be civil to each other. You need to be able to communicate. It's required. You don't really get a choice, in my opinion.
Well, I think, to discuss the aspect with children, when you have children together, you have to parent together, whether you're going to be friends or not.
Right.
That's not necessary.
Sure.
It's not required.
Sure.
In a lot of cases, I actually recommend that people, they remain friendly, but not necessarily friends. I think people have to move on in their lives. A lot of times I see when people do try and stay friends, they try and do a lot of makeup work in the friendship. So they're trying to make up. There's a lot of revenge stuff that comes up, and I when a relationship doesn't work and it's over, it's time to move forward.
Sure. And you don't want to jeopardize your current or your future relationships by being too friendly with your ex.
Sure.
Because then they're never going to wonder, can I trust this person, or are they going to get back with their ex?
Right. Is he or she holding a torch for this person?
Right.
Still?
Right. And I do know relationships that are friendly. I have an ex. When you're with someone for several years, you get to know that person. You've lived a segment of your life, a good proportion of your life, anyways. And
there's a history that can't be denied.
Right.
Sure.
Right. And it becomes even more, intimate and lifelong when you have kids together. You're going to interact. Again, friends aren't necessary. Friendly, I think, is the best approach.
Right.
I think why a lot of people have problems, some of the things that you alluded to before, these resentments, this anger, this guilt, this letdown, this void in our heart. A lot of times the stages of grief and loss are a great standing point here to discuss. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in 1969 developed these stages through a lot of research and observation and interaction. The stages were originally designed to discuss death. We've got denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And now that we've gone through the decades, we realize that loss isn't just death. It's losing a job, it's losing a marriage, it's losing a house. Sometimes it's even going from one job to a new job. There's still a grief and loss aspect to that old job, or going from one relationship to a new relationship. What happens?
What about going from an old relationship to no relationship?
Oh yeah, definitely,
Okay.
definitely. I mean, you're and when there's no a lot of people try and get into another relationship to get through the stages of grief and loss, and that is not recommended. That is bad, because what happens
you don't
is,
want to bounce back or
well, what happens is you take your crap into the next relationship, and then that relationship suffers. I mean, we can look at the statistics, I believe, and these are rough estimates, but some of the statistics I've seen is initial divorce is 50 to 60%, first-time marriages. It jumps up to like 75% for second-time marriages, and as high as 90% for third-time marriages. So what's happening is these people are jumping from relationship to relationship. And I think it should be stated that when you're in a relationship and that relationship fails, in most cases, both parties are responsible. You have to look at your crap. The other person hopefully looks at their crap. If you don't, you take that into the next relationship. If we sit and blame, do the blame game and the anger game with our exes, then we fail to take a look at our own responsibility. We fail to be accountable for our actions, our behaviors, or lack thereof in the last relationship.
Let's put this in stark contrast.
Okay.
And I know that you have seen this at least once or twice, where you truly do have a purely innocent spouse.
Yes.
Who married just a horrible person
Yeah.
and was fooled. Okay, so now I agree. If you've got two dysfunctional people, we can clearly see that there's blame on both sides.
Sure.
So
And you can have two functional people that just don't belong
right.
together.
Yeah.
That
So
happens
Let's
too.
make this as easy for us to analyze
Sure.
as someone who's not a mental health professional and people watching.
Okay.
So because I think that people will probably understand this the easiest, right? Because this is the clearest cut. So you've got somebody who's a really terrible person,
Okay.
fooled a smart but innocent person. Please tell us what this innocent person is going through and the
Sure.
mistakes this person is likely to make moving on from the divorce.
Well, I mean, a lot of times when you have that, it's a shock. I mean, it does happen, but it's not common where the person shows this terrible side of who they are at the beginning. I wish we could all go out on our first date and have the issues stamped on everyone's forehead. That would be a really convenient dating tool, if you will. But that's not how it works. So you meet this person, you fall in love, and you get married, and you move in, and then all of a sudden these behaviors start coming out, whether it be addiction. That's very common in domestic violence, where the perpetrator of domestic violence utilizes marriage and house and kids to gain control and keep that person sedentary, if you will, or
Stuck.
Immobilized. Yeah, stuck. So then, that person leaves, eventually gets out of that situation. They're going to feel guilty on some level. Yeah, of course. They're going to.
Hypothetical. They didn't do anything
They didn't
wrong.
really do anything wrong.
Yeah.
They're going to feel guilty because they're going to think, God, I'm smarter than this.
Okay.
I should know better than this. How did I stick by this person? And what I tell people is that this isn't about intelligence. It's kind of like, if you think about when you first start dating, there are some things that we do that are they're just short of a good word, stupid. Like we get stupid in love. And love isn't about the cerebral functioning or cognitive functioning. Love is an emotive functioning. And what we refer to as the heart. So when we go into the heart doesn't need explanations. The heart doesn't need proof or evidence. We just fall in love.
In fact, wouldn't it be safe to say that someone who tries to go into a loving relationship without being vulnerable and without being emotive is going to have a bad relationship? You've got to, right?
Yes,
you can't
you've
just
got to
be
have
cold-
vulnerability
you
with
can't just
love.
Be coldly analytical. You've got to let your heart rule you to some extent and
Yes.
have an influence. So, I think what I'm hearing here is that people say, "Oh, how stupid was I?" It's like, wait a minute.
No.
You weren't stupid.
Nope.
You were being loving. You were being trusting. You were giving
Vulnerable.
Vulnerable. You were giving this relationship a chance to grow, but that chance could also hurt you.
Right.
So you were giving yourself a chance to gain and to benefit and to bloom and blossom, but because there's risk involved, you also took the risk of being hurt, and in your case,
yes,
your gamble did not pay off.
Right, and it's usually not just one chance. That's why they're guilty. They feel guilty. They're not guilty, but they feel guilty. Yeah. Is that, oh, I gave them chance after chance, in addiction, for instance. We know people relapse hundreds of times sometimes before. I mean, it can be that, it can go that long, and it can be that devastating. And people will give chance after chance after chance only to come to the point of divorce. And then they harbor a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, a lot of guilt, a lot of depression. There's a lot of hurt there, a lot of hurt that they've got to work through.
Because you feel, like you've been stolen from. I mean, you're investing, you invest again,
You've put out all this energy,
right,
and you get this.
Right.
You get a big zero.
And when someone is willing to at least recognize in bits and pieces, like, hey, I did this wrong, or hey, I didn't trust you, and that was my fault. I mean, you've always been a trustworthy person.
Sure.
If they can kind of have those moments of soberness or reality,
sure,
where they really seem genuine, it's harder to break away because you're like, okay, well, they really felt bad that time, and so you finally at one point just have to go, this is never going to work.
Well, and I think it should be stated too that we give chance after chance after chance, and we feel like we got nothing from it, but we actually did get something. Sure. We we were able to demonstrate our value of caring, compassion, kindness.
I kind of thought you were going to say that. I think that's important to mention. In other words, look, you took a risk, and let's face it, we don't look down upon people that try to start a business. Now, if they're idiots and don't do it right, but somebody who says, look, I took a chance, I quit my job and I started my new business and it failed, but people go, hey, we're proud of you. You had guts. Same thing, right? Like, look, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
You opened your heart to somebody. So, number one, you may feel stupid, you may feel guilty, but remember, you took a chance.
Sure.
You didn't just stay shut up in your house all day long and never get out in the world and never try to start a relationship.
So, yes, and then one of the worst things that happens is because I'm a kind and caring individual, and I meet someone and I invest this kindness and caring into this relationship. Then when it doesn't work, one of the what I would say the greatest tragedies of divorce, of a separated relationship, is that person then says, I will never trust again, I will never be kind again, I will never care again. And what they're doing is actually, they are cutting themselves off from who they are and allowing someone else to control and form a new individual, if you will.
Yeah.
And then you're going to feel even more miserable because you're not being genuine, you're not being authentic, you're being manipulated or coerced or changed by a situation versus who you are.
In religious communities, you'll hear a lot about this, like, well, if you don't forgive, that's like, poisoning yourself in the hope the other guy dies. This is kind of a corollary to that.
Yes.
You're saying, hey, look, I'm never going to trust anybody again. Well, wait a minute. You just let that bastard ruin your life. The person you the person you finally had the courage to get away from.
Sure.
That was abusing your trust. That was abusing you. That was taking advantage of you and making you miserable. That person won.
Mm-hmm. Stuff like that is when abuse really wins. I mean, that's why I think things like rape and whatnot can be so devastating for life. If people can't get past that
and forgive,
it just hurts them forever, and then it hurts everybody that loves them and cares about them.
Forgive, but even if you're not really there yet, what you have to say is, just because you trusted and lost, in this case, does not mean that everybody out there is not worthy of trust. And, correct me if I'm wrong, choosing not to trust anybody, you're only hurting yourself. Yes, you are preventing yourself from being hurt again by somebody else, but you've also ensured that you are going to be miserable by cutting yourself off.
Sure.
It's understandable that that's hard, but I mean, that when he says that you let them win, that's really what's happening.
And it's not even about letting them win or lose. If we, that's one of the things I see in relationships that there's no winning or losing. If you're winning, then someone's losing, and so you're both losing. That's really what the relationship is about. What I look for is that both partners try and come to an agreement, and even that agreement may be that this is over. That way, it's a win-win situation, that they're coming to some agreement. Relationships do end. Going back to forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about going to your ex or going to this perpetrator or the person who caused you harm and saying, oh, I forgive you, I love you. No, it's not about that. Forgiveness is about me saying, I'm carrying this pain. I'm done carrying this pain. I've had it. And I'm ready to let this go. And I'm just telling you that I am forgiving what happened so that I can draw this line and say, I'm done. I'm moving on to the next experience. I'm moving forward in my life. And so ultimately, we are taking back control for ourselves. That's what forgiveness is. I don't have to contact the person. I don't have to make this forgiveness public or
I don't have to trust that person
No.
or even be terribly kind
No.
to that person. I just have to let it go.
and
It's
forgiveness.
not a condoning of action.
No. And forgiveness is a 4-step process. First of all, I have to identify what happened to me. What was it exactly that was done to me? It mirrors apology. What happened? And then the second is, what was the impact? And that's the part that I really have to consider. We got married, you cheated on me, you used drugs, you were violent, and I trusted you. And so the impact is now I've had a compromise of my trust, a compromise of my love, a compromise of my person. And my free agency has been compromised. And I gave you good years of my life, and you took advantage of that. And you didn't return the love that I was looking for. And so I am forgiving you. And what I'm going to do, and that's the third step, is to offer that forgiveness. And the last step is to say, and this is what I'm going to do so it doesn't happen again. I am going to move on. I'm going to find new love. I'm going to love myself even more, invest the love I was investing in you back into myself. And I'm going to do the things that I love. I'm going to do the things that I find enjoyment. And I'm going to move my life forward.
And then what does that cause? How do you deal then with somebody? Let's do this now. 'Cause
Okay.
I think this is a good jumping off point. So now I've got an ex that I have forgiven. I'm not perfect, but I've done a pretty good job of forgiveness.
Okay, good.
And then this person sends me an email
Mhm.
where when I receive it, it says, from my ex to
I know what you're talking
the
about.
jackass who divorced me. You know what I mean? Where they actually went into their email and changed that. Or when
We've literally
this-
seen that.
Yeah.
I get it.
And then,
I
like,
get
the
it. I
phone
see
call
the
co-
text
the
messages
phone-
and
yeah,
stuff too
The
on
phone
my
call
end.
comes up, and when I dial or something like that, my name comes up as
Jackass.
not Eric Johnson, but the jackass who divorced me. Okay. So we've talked about trying to be friendly as opposed to friends.
Yes.
We've talked about how you can actually let that go and what the real process of forgiveness is. Now I've got just a cantankerous, antagonistic ex who simply can't let it go.
Sure.
Well, actually, not can't. Won't let it go. Maybe can't. Maybe that person is
Sure.
wild and funny. Talk to us about what can I do if I'm in that position where I have done the right things. Okay, I'm not perfect, but I'm doing my best, and I've got somebody who's just bent on making me miserable who can't be put in jail.
Well, and part of that the acceptance process with grief and loss is identifying I have no control over anyone else. The only thing I have control over is myself.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So
Let's develop this.
ultimately, when I have control over myself, I get to make decisions for myself. I get to design a pathway, a life path, if you will, on which I will tread. I get to forgive. I get to keep my kindness. I get to be caring. And I have to look at my expectations here. Expectations are the poison in most of these cases. They're the poison in most anything that we do. They're what lead to resentment. That I have this expectation that a marriage is going to last for my lifetime and they will love me forever. And then when it divorces, then my expectation has been completely upset, therefore causing resentment, anger, bitterness, depression, isolation. Same thing in terms of forgiveness. So I forgive this person and they're being we'll use your word, jackass, back to me. Yeah. I have to look at that and I almost, there's some research on anger and our brains. And what happens is when people are cantankerous, and when they're a jackass, basically, my brain looks at that as hostility. Okay, so then it goes into an anger mode, and I puff up like a blow-up fish, and the Discovery Channel process takes place. If I attribute some meaning of empathy or compassion for that individual, then that anger process diverts to a different process. Okay,
a better process.
A much healthier process. Okay. We'll call it healthier for sure.
We saw a situation when we was talking about literally the identifier on the email. Every single email.
But don't give the actual.
No, right. No. For example, it was like the jackhole from Jerkland every single time.
Every
And so,
time.
Okay.
And
Every
so
time.
kids would see this on their phone.
Yeah,
we were just
that's-
blown away. We were like,
That
Let's
to
not
me
be
that
the-
hurts my heart when the
Yeah,
kids,
that's just-
because we have to look at the kids. We all look at our parents. Those are our parents.
Yeah.
And no matter what our parents do stupid, idiotic,
Right.
crazy things. But no matter what they do, we still love our parents. That's our parents,
Yeah.
right? And so when another parent is hurting another parent, the kids look at that and they're
Such a horrible
confused.
example.
They're confused. It begins to install a level of resentment towards the parent who is perpetrating that abuse, who's using that language to reduce the
well,
other
they can
parent.
tell what's right and wrong and who's being mean. And
Well, it's not even about
Yeah.
right or wrong. It's about love, and you don't want to foster. I've seen a lot of kids grow up where one of the parents was just evil to the other parent, and those kids grow up resenting that parent who was evil, and it's bad. I mean, it gets really toxic, really dysfunctional for everyone in the family. But I want to go back also to this level of forgiveness and this expectation. I don't expect that everyone's going to have my same values. I don't. I want it. I really want it. I wish everyone had my same values. I don't know if that's healthy or not, but that's what I desire. But I don't have to have it. When I have to have it or when I must have it, and Albert Ellis, I have to use this term. Albert Ellis coined the term masturbation in terms of I must have all of this. I have to have this. I should have this. When we make it an absolute, that's when we will fall to resentment. We will fall to anger. And so when I look at an ex who isn't being friendly, I forgive them. I understand it. I get it. They're going through hurt. They're going through pain, and they don't know how to deal with it. And the best I can do is say, I wish you well. I have forgiven you, and I'm good. I wish you the best in trying to be good on your end. That's not my responsibility. That is not of me, and it does not reflect on me.
Okay.
Although it feels like it.
I got another email. I got another phone call. I got another situation where a teacher called me up and said, "Now I understand that you are an alcohol abuser." It's like, who'd you get that from? Well, it was, I'm not really at liberty. It's like, it was my ex, wasn't it? And then you figured out.
I've had
you get
a
stuff
lot
like
of
that.
these.
So you said, look, I tried to be friendly. I realized that friends was probably no good. This person is out to get me, not to kill me, not to stalk me, not to do anything, like I said, that it's going to put this person in jail. This person is out to make me miserable. And no, as enlightened as I am, as self-actualized as I am, this person is just not letting up. And this person is so devious, he or she knows what can be done within the limits of the law.
The law,
I
yeah.
can't go to the court and say, look at this. There's not enough of it. Or perhaps there is enough, but I don't have the money or the resources, or I'm just emotionally drained.
Sure.
Now, I'm not saying you have a magic fix. What would you tell somebody in that situation who is someone saying, I want to make a change, I want to get better, I'm not here just to dump on you, Dr. Chuck, and then you just say, help fix me and don't expect me to make any sacrifices and make any effort. I'm willing to do it, but I understand I can't change this person.
Sure.
I am miserable. What's my problem? How can I address this?
Well, and I don't know. I mean, obviously, their problem is the fact that this keeps happening.
Right. And I have that problem, and I know I can't stop them.
Sure.
But surely there must be some way. I can't make everything perfect, but how do I live my life? Pull a Viktor Frankl moment for me. You know what I mean? I'm in a concentration camp. Some people are dying.
How do I survive?
Yeah, some people are dying, and other people are surviving, and they're actually in the same boat. What can I do?
If we're going to look at a Viktor Frankl moment, one of the things I would say is to surround yourself, identify what do you intend to do in your life. One of the things I have in my life, for instance, I've written down 11 things that I am focused on throughout my lifetime. These are my big goals, right? And every time I'm confronted with an individual who is trying to, their actions are presenting a deviation from my path, I remind myself of those 11 goals. I look at my list up on the wall. I have this list on like 2 or 3 areas in my life where I can see it regularly throughout the day. That way I'm focused on my future. I'm focused on me. And the question that I always ask myself is this behavior that I'm about to deviate from my path for, if you will, is it contributory to my overall life goals? does this have anything to do with my overall, future forward focus? And the answer is no. So, boom,
Okay,
I'm
specifically,
out.
every time I get an email
Mm-hmm.
with, the jackass who divorced me, identifying me from my ex,
Sure.
it just ruins my day. I mean, I can function. I go to work, but I'm just upset. I'm a little tense. I'm a little short with people, and I know why, and I hate it, and I address it. And okay, so, and I like what you've talked about with the goals. So, how do I help to let this? How do I work around this? How do I paint over this? How do I find a different outlet?
So my question would be, when you get that email, are we reading truth, and are we reading your truth and your reality?
I don't know what that means.
Well, for instance, Herman Hesse said, contained within us is everyone has their own reality. There is no reality except the one contained within us. That's the exact quote.
Okay, I think I know what you're saying.
Okay.
I'm not a jackass.
No.
To this person, and it just makes me mad that this person can get away with this. That I have to read these emails.
Get away with what would be my question?
This person can call me these names.
Sure.
Because this person's saying, "Oh, by the way, there's a carnival at the school, and I'm letting you know about it." It's like, okay, so this person got away with communicating with me by doing something good, doing something proper, but knowing I'm going to see that. Maybe they do or do not know how much it bothers me, but it bothers me, and every time I read it, it's like my whole day just goes into a tailspin.
Sure, and who's responsible for being bothered?
Me.
Yes.
I get that.
It's basically the Roadhouse quote, Patrick Swayze.
Okay.
When he's training the new bouncers. Have you seen Roadhouse? You guys?
I haven't.
So the reference, great movie, Patrick Swayze.
I saw parts of Roadhouse.
He's a bouncer. He's into martial arts. He's at this bar where it's just a total bloody mess every night.
Okay.
They hire him to clean the place up because they just can't keep anybody in there. There's fights to break out. There's blood on the floor. Anyway, so as he's training the bouncers, the guy's like, "What if somebody calls my mama a whore?" And Patrick Swayze very eloquently and just very calmly is like, "Is she?" To basically prove the point, like,
same kind of
if your
concept.
mom's not a whore, that's a stupid.
Don't
comment
worry
to get
about
mad
it.
about. Yeah.
Don't worry about
if
it.
she is, then that's a problem you got to address
Sure,
yourself.
sure.
Still, and yeah.
Yeah,
so-
I am. I suffer and celebrate the consequences of my thinking. That's
Sure.
my quote. I came up with that to help illustrate that the power of my thinking it's the influence on my behaviors and on my emotions. That is rational emotive behavioral
You
therapy.
control
Dr.
your
Albert
reaction.
Ellis.
Yeah.
I can control how I feel.
Yeah.
And I can control how I behave by taking a look at how I am thinking. So if my thought is, "Oh my God, this email is so true. How could they say this? How could they? Everyone's going to know this." Well, of course you're going to be devastated for the rest of the day. Congratulations, you caused your bad day. I look at that email and I say, "Wow, that's sad that this person, he, she cannot see that I've got these great gifts and I've got these great challenges, and they have to focus on these great challenges and make them even more deplorable. That's their problem,
I
not
think
mine."
I can see what you're saying is I have to realize that if somebody came up to me and said that I had 3 eyes on my face, I'd go, "Well, I know that's not true." It's like, "Yeah, you're ugly. You've got 3 eyes on your
got
face."
3
It's
eyes.
like, "Look,
I'm
I
sorry.
can't even take you seriously. I know."
But
you're
would
trying-
you look in the
Yeah,
mirror?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because if you look in the mirror, then
Right.
you've given
That's what I mean.
credence to what they've
So
said.
what I have to say is, look, I understand I'm not perfect, but
Sure.
I'm not the jackass who divorced you. I'm the person who divorced you, and I really am no longer simply going to feel this way. I've asked forgiveness. I've given forgiveness. I've done all that I can.
Mhm.
I simply cannot be upset by this anymore.
I don't
Because-
want to be upset by this anymore.
Right, yeah, I don't want to be upset.
I'm taking
yeah,
action.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be because I've done all that I can, and I know that nobody else is perfect, and I'm simply going to say, this person can have this opinion,
Right.
but I'm not going to share it anymore. I'm not going to let it get to me anymore. Now, in a
This
way,
person can have this opinion, and I differ from that opinion.
It's as-
I think very highly of myself.
it's-
Thank you.
It's as easy and as difficult
Yes.
as that.
Yes.
And that's where I suffer and celebrate. Look, I did divorce this person.
Mhm.
That is true.
Mhm.
I have been a jackass. That is true.
That is true.
But just as I was at one time also 4 years old and pooped my pants, I'm not going to regret that anymore. You know
That's
what I
a
mean?
good
You know what I mean? I'm 48 now.
I'm
and-
not going to hold myself
yeah, I'm not gonna
accountable
hold my-
for pooping my
yeah,
pants at
for
4
doing
years
such
old.
a terrible thing at the age of 4 when that was a different time and I was a different person. And Am I on the right track?
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly what I'm talking about. That we're human. We will err. We will make mistakes. That's the beauty of being human. We are defined by our limitations, our mistakes. We learn from those. When we're in our comfort zone, we don't learn.
And someone who wants to hold over my head for the years and years that I got a divorce.
That's their crap. That's the other person's crap. I get to choose. I get to actively choose whether I'm going to make their crap my crap. And I don't like to make, I've already got enough crap. I don't need additional crap from especially what I consider insignificant crap. I don't want that.
Let's take it a step further.
Okay.
Let's assume that I also now realize, you know what? I shouldn't have gotten a divorce. I could have made this work, but
People
I
do
did.
that.
What's done is done, and I'm still going to move on. And I understand this person is hurt by my actions, and I understand that I didn't hang in there long enough. But I also pooped my pants when I was 4. I nevertheless became a decent person. I overcame that.
Sure.
I moved on. I made penance as much as I could. I've tried to. It's like, look, I'm not going to let this slice of my life define everything about me. I can even regret it. I can look back and say, yes, hey, to somebody else, please give your marriage a chance. I didn't get mine a chance. I can try to find some, as Joel Osteen will say, I'm trying to find some beauty for ashes. Here.
I would avoid regrets. I don't.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, work through those regrets and just look at it as what is that silver lining in the gray cloud. You know, I have done some things in my life that I'm not at all proud of. You know, if I did have that magic wand, sure, I'd clean that up and make it look pretty. But if I did that, then would everything else that happened after that point change? And there's been some pretty cool things that have happened. So I don't know that I want to hold on to regret. I want to look at the situation and say, yeah, I didn't like this, but look what happened. And the same thing about, you know, leaving a marriage and then questioning, did I do the right thing? You know, maybe not. I don't know. You know, there's a level of, I guess, people that believe in destiny and fate. Let's take a look at it. So maybe you shouldn't have done it, but then what happened? And if you want to work on, you know, I can't work on my past, but I sure can work on my current, my present. And if I'm going to do that.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, I can do something today. I can't change the past. And I can do something today and plan for the future. And so what I would say in that is the next time you come into a relationship, be prepared to work. Be prepared to give it some chances. Be prepared to do the things that you wished you would have done back here. And that's what I can do today. I can change my behavior today. I can make myself a more pleasant person, you know, pleasant for me to be around, pleasant for others to be around, and I can begin this healing process. I want to state very clearly, too, forgiveness, grief and loss stages, all of these things don't just happen one time. It's not like, oh, I went through the stages, oh, I forgave them, oh, I'm done. No, because you go to bed that night and you're feeling really good and you're feeling really pleasant and really happy, and then the next morning you're like, oh, I hate that. You have a bad dream or something.
You get that email again.
Or you get another email or something happens and and then you start the war up again. No, go back to that forgiveness. Go back to the grief and loss stages and say, okay, what do I need to do here to work on myself, to focus on me? The greatest question I ask is, would you, this person that you divorced from, give them the remote to you so that person can control you? And a lot of people are like, hell no. I've never met anyone that said, yes, I would do that. They would say, hell no. And then I'm like, okay, so if you don't want them controlling you, when they do something, keep your remote and say, off, off,
Excellent.
off. You know, I'm not going to react to this. I don't want to take my lifetime and invest it in something that I've already decided to move
That's
from.
essentially, that's a great example. That's exactly what you're doing when you let somebody push your buttons and make you mad.
Oh, God,
you're
yeah.
Just like dancing like a puppet on strings because they're like, dude.
This is great.
Great book.
Yeah.
Great book by Dr. Albert Ellis and Dr. Lang. How to keep people from pushing your buttons. Okay? And it's really not about controlling them. The book has nothing to do with anyone else. It has to do with you.
Sure.
I am in charge of me. I control me, and that's where it ends. And I could even question that I have 100% self-control because I know where I've lost my control. But we have, as a human being, we have the capacity to increase the amount of self-control that we have and move away from the amount of this facade of control of others.
The name of the book, once again.
How to Keep People from Pushing Your Buttons. It's a great book, humorous,
Okay?
Easy
We'll-
read.
We'll put a link in the notes to the description. And then what we'll do for our next video, correct me if I'm wrong, is we're going to talk about those grief stages.
Yeah, we can go more in
and
detail.
so because we've talked about how a lot of people say, gee, I'd sure like to part on good terms, and we've covered that today. Now we're going to talk about what you've got to do for yourself to deal with the grief and the pain
Yeah.
so that you can move on. Is that right?
Yeah,
So that's what
yeah.
our next video is
That'll
going
be
to
great.
be about. Again, always a pleasure. And
awesome.
thank you very much. We'll
Thanks
see you
for
next
having me.
time.